Hello and welcome to Computology Academy. So this is the series going on the 67th BPSC and the exam date is 7th May. So most of the you people are well prepared and might have been prepared and go through the revision as much as possible so that you should not commit on those topics which you have already read. And for the other videos and the informative things or the crash course of the BPSC, you should join our channel. You should subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new videos. And in the ancient Bihar series we are discussing the Magad Empire, and in the Magad Empire we have already studied, we have already looked after the Shishunag dynasty's rule and thereafter the Dhananand's rule. And now today we are going to discuss about the Mauryan dynasty, the Mauryan Empire, right? So the Mauryan rule, if we talk about the Mauryan Empire, or the Mauryan dynasty, then Chandragupta Maurya removed or overthrew the rule of Dhananand with the help of Chanakya or Kautilya. And here in the Mauryan dynasty's rule we will discuss about three important rulers. One will be Chandragupta Maurya, next one was Bindusar, and the last one will be Ashoka the Great. So these are the three important rulers who ruled over the Magad Empire, who are important to be discussed in the topic of ancient history, whether it is for India or whether it is for Bihar, because Bihar is in India itself. So if you are preparing for the UPSC, then also it is very important for you people, as well as if you are going to appear in the 67th BPSC exam, then also you need to know about these rulers here, right? And if we say that how does the Chandragupta Maurya's rule came into existence at Magad? So basically Dhananand was ruling over here, and let us start with Chandragupta Maurya. So here Chandragupta Maurya ruled from 320 to 298 BCE, right? And here what happened, basically once upon a time, it is the hearsay that Kautilya or Chanakya, whatever you say, both of them are the same people. He visited the court of Dhananand where he was insulted, and he had took a vow that he will depose Dhananand, he will destroy the empire, the rule of Dhananand. And Chandragupta Maurya was also in search of some opportunity to remove Dhananand and to establish his own dynastical rule. So both of them collaborated with each other and they deposed Dhananand of his empire, of his throne. They overthrew him, and the Chandragupta Maurya established his own rule over the Magad, and he captured the capital Patliputra in 320 BCE, and thus the Maurya dynasty came into existence. The Mauryan dynastical rule started in the Magad Empire, and he is also known as, Chandragupta Maurya is also known as liberator of India, because during his reign various Indo-Greek rulers were ruling in the northwestern part of India. Basically Seleucus Nictor was there, who was ruling over there, and he overthrew the hegemony of them, and he controlled till the boundaries of Hindu Kush and beyond Hindu Kush in the Herat Kandhar regions also, and Multan region, and that is why he is also known as the liberator of India. And he was the person who had extended the boundaries of Mauryan Empire to a great extent, right? He had raised a huge army with the help of Chanakya, and there was a complete control of economy. So basically, if a state, if an empire is not having a good economy, then that empire will not be in position to raise a huge army. That is why the economy was under state control. And the revenue generated from this economy was utilized in raising a huge army. Huge standing army was being maintained by the Magadhan Empire during the reign of Mauryan dynasty, right? And here it was that the various research work was also going on based on different kinds of weapons and other things, and these kind of informations are basically available from the Chanakya's Arthashastra, right? And he was a person who was a learned person. चाणक्य नीति आज भी बहुत सारे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में लोग इस्तेमाल करते हैं, वो उस समय जो लिख कर चले गए, सोचिए 300 4th century BCE में, that is still very important in the administrative work, in the international relations, in the political aspect, in the public welfare aspect, everything. He had written extensively with respect to the administration and the governance, and that is why he becomes so important in the history. And even nowadays in the political science as well as in the public administration subject, the students used to read the theory of Chanakya or Kautilya, whatever you say. And here, with the help of all this economic wealth as well as the military might, Chandragupta Maurya had extended the limits of Mauryan Empire till the western margins of India. If we say the western margins, then Kandhar, Herat, Multan, Balochistan, all these regions were under the control of Chandragupta Maurya during that period, and they had overthrew the rule of Seleucus Nictor, who was the governor or viceroy, whatever you say, of Alexander. As we had seen that during the period of Nanda dynasty, there was the attack of Greeks on India. Alexander had attacked India, and they had annexed the region. They had established their control over the region west of the Vyas river, and they had appointed the Alexander, the ruler, Greek ruler, had appointed Seleucus Nictor as the viceroy of that region, who was ruling over there. And these were the people who were Indo-Greeks, and the rule of these people was overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya with the help of Chanakya Niti, right? And he had also reached to the Deccan in the south. He had reached to the north of Karnataka region. Only the deep south region was left behind, and the rest of the region was under the control of Chandragupta Maurya. And if you say about the western region, then in the western region also Saurashtra and Malwa, these regions were under the control of Chandragupta Maurya. So you can understand what kind of vast empire he was controlling. He was the person who was capable of establishing a kind of pan-India rule in the Indian subcontinent. The most vast empire that was existent over there in the ancient historical period was established by the Mauryan dynasty, and we will see that the extent of this empire further increased during the rule of Bindusar and Asoka. And during the period of Asoka, the extent of the empire was at its zenith, right? And here the Seleucus Nictor had seceded. There was a war between the Seleucus Nictor and Chandragupta Maurya, and due to that, what happened, Seleucus Nictor had to secede the regions of Kabul, Kandahar, Elat, Baluchistan, Makrana, and all these regions over where the rule of Chandragupta Maurya was established, as well as a peace treaty was signed between them. And due to that peace treaty, a marriage alliance was also established, and Seleucus Nictor had married one of the princes to Chandragupta Maurya, and in 315 BC, if we talk about the timeline, then in 315 BCE, Seleucus Nictor sent one of his ambassador to Patliputra, and he is one of the most famous historian, as well as we find his name mentioned in the history time and again. And if you have gone through the historical topics well, then you will recognize his name quite well. So that is Megasthenes, right? Megasthenes. He came to the court of Chandragupta Maurya at Patliputra in 315 BC, and he wrote his travel log, from where also we come to know various things about the administrative system, about the economic condition, about the political situation, and the other things about the Magadhan Empire. And his travel log was Indica. Actually, the original form of Indica is not available nowadays. It has already gone destroyed. But after writing this book, Megasthenes released this book, whatever it was there, and various other writers mentioned the things mentioned, they repeated the information that was mentioned in this book, and through that the information from this percolated to the current time. And that is why we come to know various things about the Magadhan Empire, about the Chandragupta Mauryan's times administration and the Mauryan dynasty. What was written over there in Indica is available to the current time with the help of the other writers who have mentioned, who have quoted the information from Indica. And Chandragupta Maurya was the first ruler who developed a countrywide administrative system in the Indian subcontinent. As we have seen that this was the most vast empire during that period, and that is why to administer that he had to plan some kind of administrative system in which he was getting the help of Chanakya. He was appointing various viceroys in different regions. Different viceroys were appointed by Chandragupta Maurya, or the emperor, whoever was from the Mauryan dynasty. During his regime, he used to appoint the viceroys, and most of the viceroys during that period were used to be from the royal family itself. Most of the time the princes, the Yuvraj of the family used to be appointed as the viceroy in different regions of the Mauryan Empire, as well as the law and order situation was also under control. Various law and order tenets were developed there, the codes were developed there, and the judicial system was very strict. If we talk about the judicial system, then it was very strict, and it was being implemented in letter and spirit, and it was very harsh. It was centralized, it was very harsh, and here Rajukas were appointed to look after the judicial system. Most of the time what happens, if you see a question in objective question that Rajukas were the officials in the Mauryan Empire related to which kind of administration, then you will get confused that Rajukas, then it relates to Rajasva, right? Then you may go on to mark that these were the officials who were dedicated to tax collection and all those kind of things. But it is not so, because if you know the factual information, then you will come to know that the Rajukas were the people who were looking after the law and order situation, not the taxation system, right? And here the judicial system was very harsh, and there is a reason behind that. Why the judicial system was made so harsh? Because during that period in the economic activity, only the agricultural activity was not included, but the trade economy was also flourishing. And for that matter, the traders had to travel to long distances, and during that period, the law and order situation should be maintained to facilitate the trade. And that is why the law and order situation, the judicial system was so harsh and centralized to facilitate the trade, to maintain the ease of doing business, whatever we call it nowadays. And that is why the judicial system was made harsh, so that none of the traders should be robbed and there should be loss of any economy or any fear factor because of which the trade would suffer. And that is why the law and order situation was maintained through harsh judicial system. Okay. And here various types of taxes were also there. Agricultural tax was already existent. Thereafter, the tax on the trade, various art and craft and other things was also being imposed, and the traders had to register with the officials, rajukas, of whatever the trade they were doing, and they had to maintain the logbook, they had to pay the taxes. So you can understand what kind of elaborate taxation system was existent over there, and the details about such kind of thing is also found in Indica, as well as the city administration of Patliputra. City administration of Patliputra was also very elaborate. There were 6 committees to look after the administration of Patliputra, and the details about these kind things, these informations are also found in Indica. And here what happens, the administration was made welfare oriented. Already the welfare touch was there in the administrative system, but it was made more welfare oriented during the period of Asoka, when after 261 BCE, when he left the Digvijay in favor of Dhamvijay, thereafter he embraced Buddhism. He started to patronize Buddhism, and for the matter of spreading the peace and tranquility and brotherhood and all those kind of things, he started to orient the administrative system towards the welfare system, and the welfare orientation was more pronounced during his administration. He appointed the Dham Mahamantas to maintain the welfare touch of the administrative system and to give the generous donations to the Buddhist religious works and other things. So this was during the period of Asoka, but before that only the simple welfare touch was there. Proper administration was being taken over there. And Asokan edicts, if we say that from where does we come to know about the information that are available from the ancient time, then Indica written by Megasthenes was one of the travel log from where we come to know about the administrative system and other things. Thereafter Arthashastra written by Kautilya, and the Asokan edicts, Asokan rock edicts, Asokan pillars are the another major source from where we come to know about the different factors about the administrative system and other things of the Mauryan period. And after 298 BCE, who came to rule? Bindusar. Bindusar, who ruled from 298 to 272 BCE. Right. So he was the second important ruler who ruled over the Magadhan Empire. He succeeded Chandragupta Maurya. The foreign relations were further strengthened, and he strengthened his relationship with the Syrian and the Egyptian regions also. And Dimachus, नाम थोड़ा अलग मिलेगा, different मिलेगा. We pronounce it Dimachus, but write it Dimachus. Right. And here the Greek ambassadors, Megasthenes returned back to Greek. He was during the period of Chandragupta Maurya in the court of the Magadhan Empire at Patliputra, and thereafter Dimachus was the Greek ambassador who came to the court of Bindusar at Magad during the Mauryan Empire. And here Bindusar further increased the extent and strength of the Magadhan Empire. He further increased the frontiers of the Magadhan Empire, and during his period, one of the important fact is that during the period of Bindusar, Ashoka was appointed as the Viceroy of Ujjaini. ठीक है, Ujjain, nowadays Ujjain, present day Ujjain, was known as Ujjaini during that period, and he was the person, Ashoka was the person who was the viceroy of Ujjaini during the reign of Bindusar, and this much was the achievement of Bindusar. Thereafter, the rule of Ashoka came, one of the greatest ruler in the Indian history. So Ashoka ruled for 40 years, 272 BCE to 232 BCE, and the major turning point in his life was the Kalinga War, right? In 261 BCE there was Kalinga War. Before that, Ashoka was following the policy of blood and iron, war and aggression. For the expansion of his empire, he was very aggressive, he was very furious, he was fighting many wars to expand his empire, and he was one of the most spectacular ruler of Mauryan Empire, of Mauryan dynasty. But what happened in 261 BCE? 261 BCE there was Kalinga War, and after this Kalinga War there was a complete change in the policy for the expansion of the empire and for the administration and other things in the heart of Ashoka. In the common perspective of Ashoka was completely devastated to deep to his heart because of whatever the bloodshed, whatever the destruction he had witnessed during the Kalinga War. It is said that he had took more than 150,000 war prisoners, as well as more than 1 lakh people, around 1 lakh people had got killed. And it is also said that after the Kalinga War there were no male person in Kalinga. So although it seems that it is a bit exaggerated, it is like that there was not so much of the population also that this could have happened, but still the devastation was great, which changed the heart of Ashoka. And from here onwards, Ashoka abandoned the policy of Digvijay and instead he embraced the policy of Dhamma-Vijay. So what happened? Here comes the major political change. Major political approach of Ashoka was changed, and from here, instead of Digvijay, Ashoka changed his policy to Dhamma-Vijay. So this was a great turning point in the history of the Mauryan Empire, in the history of the Mauryan dynasty's rule. And we will see later on that how this change in policy led to the downfall and destruction of the Mauryan Empire, of the Magadhan Empire. So he established the foreign relations also. He established the relation with Syria and Sri Lanka, West Asian countries, Greek rulers and other regions, and he sent his ambassadors to this region, and basically these ambassadors were sent to spread the Buddhism, to preach the Buddhism to the rulers of these regions and to convince them to preach the same type of Buddhism, to same type of tenets of the peace, harmony and coexistence, non-violence and all those kind of things to their popular subjects, to their citizens also. And that is why he had sent the ambassadors to this region, and these regions included Syria, Egypt, Macedonia, various other regions were there. And he was having the friendly relation with these regions, with these countries. He took the interest in the welfare work also, and his motive was to establish an influence over these regions, over the vast part of the world, and through this influence he would have a friendly relation, he would have a non-aggressive attitude among these rulers of his vicinity as well as far-flung regions also. So his empire will be secured, as well as he will not need to wage a war with the other rulers. So what was the religious life? So there was a complete change in heart of Asoka after 261 BC, as well as his religious approach also changed. So the religious life of Asoka changed completely. After this he embraced Buddhism, and he was spreading Buddhism also. He was patronized Buddhism considerably. He also organized, this is a very important point, that he organized the Third Buddhist Council. Third Buddhist Council was organized by Asoka during his reign at Patliputra. Second was also in Magad Empire itself, in the Magad region itself, but at that very time, as we have seen, the Buddhist Council was organized at Vaisali, as the Vaisali was the capital during that period, and the Third Buddhist Council was also organized in the Magadhan Empire at Patliputra, as well as the First Buddhist Council was also organized in the Magadhan Empire itself at Rajgriha. So these first three Buddhist councils were organized in the Magadhan Empire by the Magadhan rulers itself. Only the fourth Buddhist Council was organized by Kanishka in Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar, right? So keep in mind these kind of things. And here what happened, he sent the missionaries to various foreign countries to spread the Buddhism, and with the approach of spreading the Buddhism, here what happened, along with Buddhism there was a spread of Indian culture also, as the ambassadors were taking the religious preachings with them, plus they were carrying their culture also. So the religion plus culture was also spread in these regions wherever the Indian ambassadors, the Buddhist ambassadors, used to reach over to spread Buddhism. As we see that nowadays, even nowadays, on the western coast of Caspian Sea, you will find some population who still follow the Buddhism, as well as in Russian region also. At the border region of the Kazakhstan and Mongolia, you will find that some population of Buddhism still exists, as well as in the Southeast Asian region and the Asian subcontinent, you will find that there is considerable spread of Buddhism as well as the Indian culture. So that is why there is an admixture of Indian culture as well as the Chinese culture, and this region is known as the Indo-China region, right? And for the matter of maintaining the peace, harmony, non-violence, and spread of the Buddhism, spreading the tenets of the Buddhism and all these things, he had appointed the Dham Mahamantas. And if we talk about the law and order situation during this period, then law and order situation. So during this period, he appointed Rajukas, as we have already seen. The killing of animal, any kind of violence against any living organism was a crime. It was completely banned. The killing of animals was banned. Peace, harmony, and tolerance was maintained by enforcing the religious tenets. Religious preachings used to be, the Dham Mahamantas and the other officials used to convince the people that this thing is wrong, this thing is right. Peace, harmony, tolerance, coexistence, all these kind of moral and ethical values and social values used to be spread by the Dham Mahamantas and other officials among the common people with the help of their preaching, right? And here high ethical and moral values was promoted among the subjects, among the masses, and that is why the law and order situation was good during that period. However, if we see that later on it started to degrade, but till that time it was quite good, and he was the first ruler to establish a welfare state. Although during the administration of Chandragupta Maurya and the Bindusar, the city administration and all those kind of things was good, but the welfare touch was not so huge, that was not so large during their period as it was during the period of Ashoka. However, if we come to the foreign policy of Mauryan rulers during that period, then the Mauryan rulers used to have a friendly relation with the far-flung regions, like as is in the regions of Syria, Greeks and all those things. However, this was the foreign policy of Ashoka was completely based on the peace, non-violence and friendly relation, coexistence, all those kind of principles were the basis, were the foundation of the foreign policy of Ashoka, and this took a dent on the future. This took a dent on the future of Mauryan Empire. And why this took a dent on the future of the Mauryan Empire? Due to this policy of peace, coexistence, non-violence, tolerance, all those kind of things. What happened? There was no need of huge standing army. So the military power of the Ashokan Empire started to got degraded, and that is why what happened, the military was abandoned. They were not so war hardened and all those kind of things was there. And as the later Mauryan emperors came to rule, then the aggression, then the regional aspirations in the Mauryan empires itself started to crop up, as well as the foreign rulers also started to attack on the Mauryan empire. However, the army was already in peril, that had got disintegrated. So again, to muster such a huge army as well as the war hardened army was not a easy task, and this dent on the army, this dent on degradation of the army took a dent on the future of the Mauryan empire, and that is why it is said that the Ashoka principles of peaceful coexistence and all those kind of things was very good, but it took a dent on the empire itself. And here what happened, more thing was that due to the support to the Buddhism, what happened, the Brahmans were getting neglected, and that is why they got alienated from the empire, and they were in a constant search of an opportunity to destroy the Mauryan empire and to establish their hegemony again. If we talk about the Chaturvarna system, then the Brahmans are at the highest level, thereafter Kshatriyas, thereafter Vaishyas, and thereafter Sudras during that period. So these Brahmans were having the hegemony and huge political clout as well as huge social clout position, and all those kind of things was there with the Brahmans during the ancient, medieval, and even in the modern period we see some kind of such situation. So they had got infuriated because the Buddhism was getting patronized by the emperor. However, the Brahmans were getting neglected, they had got alienated, and they were in constant search of an opportunity to take a revenge on the empire. And as the military power got started to degraded, thereafter the foreign rulers started to attack, and all those kind of things was happening. So the Brahmans also got an opportunity, and they facilitated the destruction of the Mauryan dynasty and the fall of the Magadhan empire. And if we see overall what were the reasons of the fall of the Magadhan empire, then there were various factors. One of the major factor was the incapable successors. So the successors were not so capable as those of the Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara and Ashoka. Next was the centralized administration. So the centralized administration system was again a disaster for such a huge army, such a huge empire, because the information was not getting passed on from the center of the administration to the far-flung area, as well as what kind of administrative system, what kind of the position of the social condition and other things was not getting reverted back to the central administration, and it was taking too much of time because the modern system of the transport and communication and other things was not existent over there, and because of that the empire started to get disintegrated, regional aspirations started to get crop up, as well as due to the lack of information in the far-flung areas, the regional administrators, the viceroys and the other administrators started to become tyrannical. They were tyrannical to the local subjects, and that also led to the rebellion in the regional regions, and because of that the local administrators had to flee the region and they lose the control over these regions, as well as soon as the lack of friendly relation between the Mauryan Empire, between the Mauryan rulers and the Indo-Greeks started to degrade, the peaceful relation, the friendly relation was not between them. So the Indo-Greeks started to attack on the northwestern margins of the Mauryan Empire, and they started to annex, and they took a huge part of the Mauryan Empire under their control. So again, this was a situation because of which there was fall of the Mauryan Empire, as well as the huge expenses of the empire was one of the major factor. Because of that the overall control over the empire was not so good. And last but not the least, the Pushyamitra Shunga put the final nail on the coffin of the Mauryan Empire. He killed the last ruler. Pushyamitra Shunga killed the last ruler, Brihadarratha, and he established the rule of the Shunga dynasty. So this was in 185 BCE when the last ruler of the Mauryan dynasty was killed, and the rule of the Mauryan dynasty over Magad was ended. So this was the overall history of the Magadhan Empire. And last but not the least, I would like to inform you all that the GS Foundation course, for the 2023 Civil Services exam has already been announced by the Computology IAS Academy. The classes are going to start on 28th of March 2022. This is going to be a morning batch, 8 AM batch. This will be a course of complete pre-comes main syllabus, where you will find the hand holding and personal mentoring till the final selection. So all of you whoever wants to register for the course, and one more thing, this is going to be the offline course. The online courses, as many of the students were asking about the online courses, so the online courses will be launched very soon. However, the offline courses have already been launched. The registration are already on and the seats are getting filled quite fast. So those of you whoever want to register for the course, they will find the contact details, the website detail and other things in the description below. And do subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new videos. Thank you very much and have a nice day.